Powered by Riverside FM.
A sudden outburst of laughter erupted from the desk next to mine. Turning my head, I saw my colleague in hysterics. After he recovered himself, he gestured for me to come and look at his screen. He had been searching on the people directory for someone who could help him with a particular issue, and in doing so had come across the company's international retail banking director, a certain Mr. Phil Swindle. We could only assume that Phil's middle name must have been My Boots. Presumably, he is also very good at his job to have overcome any stigma about his surname in that kind of banking industry. This name-to-job link is an amusing example of something known as an aptronym, i.e., names that fit, or in this case, it is perhaps the opposite of a name that doesn't fit. Aptronyms emphasize the fact of the appropriateness of a particular name to someone's profession or activities. In this way, they are distinct from something known as nominative determinism, which emphasizes a causal link from the name to the profession itself. I.e., in our case, Phil's surname Swindle would have played some active role in leading to his career in banking. The concept of nominative determinism was most recently popularized in an issue of New Scientist in 1994. It was intended as a part of a light-hearted column, whereby the column authors published a list of several scientists whose names seemed humorously appropriate for their fields. For example, the author of a paper on polar exploration was Daniel Snowman, and a urology article on incontinence turned out to be authored by J.W. Splatt and D. Whedon. The idea struck a chord, and many readers sent in further fitting names to future issues. It was not clear that the concept itself was ever meant to be taken seriously. Indeed, it's difficult to see how something as relatively arbitrary as a name can have a strong influence on something as important as career choice. Nevertheless, some psychologists did seem to accept the phenomenon and attempted to explain it through implicit egotism, the unconscious preference that some people have for things that resemble themselves, including their names. Indeed, in the 1950s, Carl Jung referred to the compulsion of the name. If you've been constantly surrounded by people referring to you as a baker, for example, perhaps you would be more interested in bread. There is indeed one plausible mechanism through which your name might influence your profession, and that's where your name is linked to a family business. Some surnames have links, albeit usually very historical, to one's former ancestors. For example, a butcher, a mason, or a cartwright. These could all have been potentially handed down, and particularly where long-running family businesses exist, there could be a role in influencing your profession. However, most surnames like this are very historical, with many chances for descendants to move beyond the hereditary businesses. And further, most professions which have directly influenced surnames are now either very niche or have been superseded entirely. They have not been replaced by surnames reflecting the new roles and jobs which have emerged in, let's say, the last 50 years or so. I don't know about you, but I am not aware of anyone known as Mrs. Software Engineer or Mr. Psychotherapist, or perhaps Ms. Deliveroo Driver. So overall, most scientists have put little weight in the idea that there is any causal link between names and professions. Instead, they consider the phenomenon to be primarily a coincidence or some form of cognitive bias where we notice funny name-career matches and give them disproportionate attention, ignoring all of the other mismatches. This is the most likely, albeit more boring, explanation. Nevertheless, let's at least still enjoy the phenomenon by looking at some other examples, all of whom are real people and are perfectly well named for their professions. There is one well-known dentist called Dr. Fang. The 2003 World Series of Poker Championships was won by Chris Moneymaker at a time that sparked the subsequent poker boom. A man known as Igor Judge had a very successful career, rising to be the former Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales, and accordingly was known as Lord Judge Judge. In tennis, there's a women's professional player from Israel known for her particularly aggressive style of play, whose name is Anna Smashnova. And then a personal favourite of mine, one which is focused not so much on the profession, but more on a precise moment of time. Some listeners may remember the UK has experienced a number of short-lived petrol shortages, where rumours of shortages led to panic buying and the shortages becoming self-fulfilling. Citizens were desperately trying to fill their cars or any containers they could find with petrol. During this time, the BBC sent one of their news correspondents to the local petrol station. As he stood there, reporting on the locals around him dispensing petrol into anything they could find, his name flashed up on the screen as Phil McCann.